Is Beyond Meat or the Impossible Burger similar to dog food? How does the ingredient list impact current health if they have to ensure shelf stability, preserve texture, and increase flavors so that it tastes similar to the real thing? We will cover each ingredient one by one and compare it to both real beef and what's in current pet food. Stay tuned for this eye-opening episode, one that will shock, awe, and educate you all at the same time. For the survival of this small channel, I would love for you to consider 3 things. First, many of you have asked how one can financially support the resilient diabetic. So, there is now a GoFundMe link in the description box. Second, don't forget to subscribe and hit that gray notification bell. That way, you will be alerted when new life-changing episodes have been published. Third, and most importantly, if you've learned something new or revolutionary today, and that is what this channel is all about, keeping you on the forefront of science, then please hit that like button for me. Although our world may be evolving at digital speed, many of our genes are still stuck at that hunter-gatherer dinner table. First question, have our diets changed too rapidly for our genes to keep up? Could the end result be a cluster of metabolic conditions that include and are not limited to diabetes, elevated blood pressure, heart disease, cancer, obesity, and yes, even Alzheimer's? The news of our health has been poor, but it's only getting worse. In this newest study called Trends and Disparities in Cardiometabolic Health among U.S. adults, only 6.8% of the population now has optimal cardiometabolic health based on body composition, blood glucose levels, blood lipid levels, blood pressure, and clinical cardiovascular disease. And just in case you're wondering, our pet's health is also on the decline too. In the episode Why We and Our Pets Are Diabetic and Dying, I explained when you feed pets refined foods not evolutionary designed for them to eat, they also become sick. That is why you are seeing an explosion of diabetes and heart disease in cats, and now especially in our dogs too. What are the connections, you're probably asking? Dogs, like us humans, require diets rich in high quality protein. The problem? Animal meat is very expensive, and most dog food, as you already know, is cheap. So dog food companies have been working for decades on ways to replace animal protein with cheaper substitutes. Does that sound familiar? Originally, dogs' food plant-based protein of choice was grain-based, corn, rice, or barley. These cereals are significantly cheaper per calorie than meat, which means greater profits for those companies. As dog parents began to scrutinize food labels more closely, they wondered, why is the first ingredient in my beef or chicken dog food actually corn or wheat protein? Once called out and shamed, these pet food manufacturers had no other choice but to pivot. They decided to shift gears and promote what was known as the untested, grain-free version. So what they did was replace corn and wheat with peas, lentils, and other legumes, seeds, and or potatoes in various forms as the main ingredient, hoping this would trick and appease the parents. Not only did the average price of dog food double, but then the grain-free movement came crashing down, and almost immediately, because the FDA put out a warning that dogs that have been diagnosed with a diet-related heart failure, which were very, very few in nature up to that point, were now being caused by at least 16 popular brands of these experimental grain-free dog food items. Researchers are still unclear on the exact mechanism, but the leading theory is that peas are to blame. And what is the first ingredient in Beyond Meat burger? You guessed it, pea protein isolate. But in all fairness, we humans, however, don't have to worry about pea protein causing heart failure because we do eat a diverse diet, unlike dogs who eat the same food every single day. But, and here's the big but, there is one headwind when it comes to our own diverse diets. There is a cultish, almost religious war going on behind the scenes. For example, the Impossible Foods CEO, one of the makers of these fake meats, has since declared it is his mission to end the availability of all animal proteins by the year 2035. The meat replacement industry does have a noble underpinning. In their opinion, an alternative to animal meat would save the planet and would be a welcome improvement for the world's growing number of vegetarians. As of 2021, there are 32 million diabetics just here in the United States. India, a vegetarian nation, has double the rates of 74 million diabetics. 1 in every 6 people with diabetes in the world is from India. And remember this, the irony, India is a predominantly vegetarian nation. So the main question is this: are these new food manufacturers basically feeding and poisoning their consumers all at the same time while making huge profits? Beyond Meat, one of the world's largest producers of these plant-based meat products, went public at $25 a share and soared to an all-time high of $234. As of today, it is back down, trading in the low 30s. At its peak, Beyond Meat stock was valued at $14 billion. Today, it's worth around $2 billion. In its most recent quarterly report, they had a $100 million net revenue loss. Analysts stated Beyond Meat must drastically cut costs and lower its cash burn, or it will go bankrupt. What happened to the stock and the sales of these alternative meats? In order to keep you and your family healthy, obviously you must read ingredients. And we began doing that just like the pet parents did. And what has come out is not very good. When something is too good to be true, it probably isn't. These substitutes are not only made with plants. Fake meats can have up to 21 different chemical ingredients. A public relations firm backed by the meat producers did unleash a savage marketing campaign that claimed plant-based meat alternatives are unhealthy. They're ultra-processed imitations similar to dog food. Now, are they right? Ultra or highly processed foods do have artificial colors, flavors, and preservatives to promote shelf stability, preserve texture, and increase taste. They usually undergo several highly technical steps using multiple ultra-processed ingredients. In other words, it is engineered in a lab. Do you happen to know what a bioreactor is? What is the calorie and protein difference between Beyond Burger and beef? A typical burger size is around 113 grams. The Beyond Burger will have around 20 grams of protein and be around 230 calories. Beef, 80% lean, has 287 calories and around 19 grams of protein. Meatless burgers do artificially add in vitamins and minerals that are found naturally in animal proteins like vitamin B12 and zinc in amounts equal to, and in some cases greater than, both red meat and poultry. This is a definite plus for vegetarians because these nutrients are typically harder to come by when relying on foods that come from the plant kingdom. And when did our interest in fake meats come to that peak? When new manufacturing techniques gave a taste more closely resembling real meat. But how do they make plants taste and have the mouthfeel resembling beef? Simple. You add in more lab-made chemical additives. Have you heard of TBHQ, propylene glycerol, erythricine, sodium tripolyphosphate? How about ferric orthophosphate? Remember, veggie burgers don't grow in the ground. They're made in factories. Here's the next harsh irony. The actual ingredients in their products are higher in both saturated fat and sodium than lean ground beef. And as far as plants go, you can hardly consider pea protein isolate or expeller pressed canola oil to be vegetables. Take pea protein, that first main ingredient on the list next to water. Once it's chemically extracted from the yellow field peas, you will not get any of the magnesium, folate, potassium, or fiber that's built into the actual pea. To be clear, Beyond Meat's competitor, the Impossible Burger, simply uses a different but closely related legume, soy. And if you've been following this channel, then you know how I feel about soy protein. The following chart shows how the newer meatless burgers stack up nutritionally against beef burgers, turkey burgers, and a black bean burger. If saturated fat, sodium, and calories are your main concern, then the clear winner is the turkey burger. Back to our main topic at hand, comparing Beyond Meat to dog food. Shall we continue down that ingredient list? The second ingredient will always be some kind of very cheap, polyunsaturated, highly oxidative oil, and it's usually canola oil. 1 tablespoon of canola oil contains 2,600 milligrams of omega-6s and only 1,300 milligrams of omega-3s. That's a lot of omega-6s. And I've talked about this when we cover the newest research on avocado oil. And just in case you missed it, it will be here and in the description box for you to watch. The most abundant source of omega-6 in our diets does come from these vegetable oils, or what should really be called industrial seed oils. And once heated and reused, they do become poisonous because they are so susceptible to oxidation. Furthermore, too many omega-6s over omega-3s puts us out of balance and in a constant inflammatory state. Remember, inflammation equals illness. When it comes to us diabetics like me in particular, the inflammation from these oxidized foods high in omega-6 also causes high blood sugars to remain elevated. This last key point is what everyone is missing. So let me expand on this for just a minute because it's so important to understand. I am known as what is a late onset type 1 diabetic, meaning my diabetes was caused by an autoimmune attack that destroyed my pancreas. So I am completely dependent on insulin to survive. Whenever my body becomes inflamed from either eating the wrong foods, an illness, or injury, my blood sugars increase and I need more and more insulin to bring down and control those sugars. I do not like my A1C to be above a 5 ever. So flatline glucose control like this is paramount to my overall health. What I noticed early, soon after diagnosis, was foods cooked in these omega-6 oils make it very difficult for me to control my blood sugars because they are so inflammatory. Once consumed, they require significantly more insulin. And here's the key, even if no carbohydrates are eaten. I wholeheartedly believe in the hyperinsulin model, meaning high insulin levels, or what's known as hyperinsulinemia, is one of the true causes of all these modern diseases. So I avoid polyunsaturated vegetable oils like the plague. What's worse, the healthy omega-3s found in canola oil aren't even beneficial as opposed to the omega-3s found in foods like fish. The omega-3s found in canola oil are ALA, alpha-lipoic acid. ALA does not convert well to EPA or DHA, which are the beneficial omega-3s that protect the brain, heart health, and today, most importantly, the immune system. On a quick side note related to that immune system, and I've mentioned this before, which got quite a bit of attention, even as a type 1 diabetic, which is considered to be the most vulnerable to illness, I have not been sick in the last 15 to 20 years at all. I have not had a runny nose, a cold, the flu, or even tested positive or had the slightest symptoms from the dreaded, the vid, or any of its variants throughout this entire epidemic. And due to the nature of my business, I am exposed to the public more than most. So not only do I maintain this kind of conditioning year-round through extremely intense 6-day-a-week workouts, but I'm in my 50s, and unfortunately, as a business owner with more than 20 plus employees, I have to work 7 days a week with no days off. There are no rest days, and my stress levels at times can be through the roof. I am also exposed to my 2 young kids who get sick, bringing home the coughs, the colds, the flus from school, still building up their immune system. But this is where things got interesting. A true test of health. Last month, my 9-year-old son got the vid for the first time since the beginning of this epidemic. My mom, who's a retired nurse who was here to help, she then got it. So did my wife and my 2-year-old daughter. Everyone in the house was real sick and at the exact same time. Coughing, sneezing, runny nose, high temperatures. 2 weeks of absolute sleepless nights. But once I'm home from work, there was no way of isolating myself or escaping, nor was wearing a mask going to do any good. I figured it was only a matter of time before my body succumbed. But I also knew if I kept inflammation down, kept up with my routine through the right diet, which is a low carb, high lean protein diet, while still exercising, I should be fine. Well, I never got it. Continually tested and stayed 100% healthy. The streak continues as long as I keep avoiding highly inflammatory foods like these vegetable oils. Let's continue down that ingredient list, shall we? Canola oil is also that controversial ingredient used in the dog food world too. It is that cheap source of fat, and it's found in, you guessed it, those popular brands of grain-free dog foods. The third ingredient is called methyl cellulose. It's a chemical compound that's often used as a thickener or a filler to add bulk. Rather than use real ingredients, it's a cheap additive that allows food manufacturers to increase the weight and improve texture of products without adding any nutritional benefits. Where is methyl cellulose predominantly found, you may ask? In your over-the-counter laxatives. Beyond Meat also contains potato starch, another source of their natural flavors, and it's code for palate enhancer. It makes bad tasting food taste better. And guess what? It's also found in nearly every kibble dog food. There are also a handful of neutral ingredients that I'll point out, and those, of course, are also very common in dog food items, namely sunflower oil, which is also high in those sickening omega-6s, vegetable glycerin, and beet juice. What I found extremely interesting was a CNBC interview with Whole Foods co-founder and CEO John Mackey. He actually spoke out against these plant-based meat substitutes, even though his stores profited and were the launching pads for Beyond Meat and most of these other brands. Mackey pointed out, if you look at the ingredients, they are super highly processed foods. And he's right. As I mentioned, I live the low-carb, high-protein lifestyle. My carb sources mainly come from above ground. And I'll say that again, a large variety of vegetables grown above ground. And my proteins are from lean animal sources. Even though these meatless versions are low carb, I would never consider them for myself, my family, or any vegetarian looking for options just far too inflammatory and processed to be considered healthy. If you want to know my philosophy on how to control blood sugars, remain physically fit, and remain healthy, free from all illnesses, and see what I eat in more details, then I'll set up a playlist for you and we will focus in on proteins first. How much protein do you need a day? What are the best kinds of protein? And I'll even expose the deceit and the misunderstandings doctors and nutritionists are taught to this very day about this vital macronutrient. The first link you will see is to the GoFundMe page. The second is to subscribe to this all-important life-changing channel. And the third, the link to the playlist on protein. Have a great and productive day, and we will see you soon with another new episode, which are generally released bi-monthly. Bye for now.